App Marketplace webinar for Planium Pro, Strategic Business Planning Software. Now, Rod Samimi, CEO of the company, will do the introduction of the software.
Let's have a look at the target markets for Planium Pro. The Planium Pro has distinctly two different segments for its markets. That depends, and it's a function of the underlying product. Planium Pro in its full capacity and version provides a product that is suited for the professional user segment of the market. What we mean by professional users are institutions, companies, or individuals who are engaged in provision of business planning services to their clients directly or as part of the ancillary services, may it be accounting, financial advice, or financial planning. This segment and individuals or companies in this segment likely to be using the product on a recurring basis to generate revenue for their own firm as part of their services, and are likely to be using a more advanced and in-depth analysis for their clients. Typically, their clients would form small to medium-sized businesses who require regular business planning for their various requirements, such as fundraising or a strategic review, and so forth. So segment number one, we call professional users, and they'll be using the version of the software that is more advanced. We should also say that within that version, there are also options to use a basic set of outputs or more advanced set of outputs. The other target market for which we've got a modified version of the software embodies individuals or companies who would want to have a simpler and more streamlined business plan as a one-off exercise for their own use. So this segment is more, the characteristic of the segment is more of an end user service. The product here, Planium Pro, a simpler version. It's template based, and it is really suitable for a one-off use. And of course, the pricing within these two segments reflect this variety of usage and a different profile of the client. Now, if you have a look at the value proposition, it's best to actually describe the value proposition for both segments. Whilst there are a great deal of overlap with the value proposition overall, it's more accurate to actually describe it segment by segment. In fact, we use the same methodology within the software. In segment one, for professional users, for the full version, the value proposition is the simplification and acceleration of their processes internally, whereby the user, the company, or a professional service provider can actually compile a fairly robust and complex business plan at a fraction of the time that would take for alternative products or with a manual process in doing so. So less cost, more recurring revenue equals value proposition for this product, for this type of professional user in segment one. It also can facilitate many of the professional users who might be hesitant to enter into business planning activities because of the time and the resource requirements to do so, because now they have got a tool that they can either use themselves or use their less senior staff in providing this kind of service into the market. So it is enhancement of current revenue and lower cost for those who are already in there, but also opening up that business unit or that line of service for entities that might be aspiring to enter into that ancillary service profile. The value proposition for segment 2, for the simpler version of the software for end users, is the fact that they can engage themselves in putting the business plan together, which in the past they might have had to go and spend money to seek further guidance and professional input. This software actually facilitates the ability of an end user to put something quite rigorous and sufficient for the small business or a small sole proprietor to do it in-house by themselves and without having to spend money. So it's something that might be prohibitive for their budget, so they can do business planning themselves. So here we go, two separate market segments with two relevant products and corresponding value propositions, both in terms of cost and revenue generation and time saving. Now, what does the integration with MYOB mean? Part of the business planning, any business planning, as you know, involves financial forecasts and financial modeling. Our product, Planium Pro, particularly in this full version, has quite a robust financial module where the user, with fairly simple and well explained inputs, the user can produce fairly complex and robust financial outputs such as P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow forecasts, discount cash flow analysis, valuation, capitalization valuation, and you can use that dynamically for different years, a number of years forecast ahead, as well as producing the report monthly or annually. So in that sense, our product requires some inputs, like any other financial model. Those initial inputs and some of the assumptions can either be transferred from existing accounting information or even taxation information, such as the latest annual returns or management accounts, or via this type of integration, our software can integrate with MYOB and obtain the required information directly from MYOB information to go into primarily what we call the opening position and some of the underlying assumptions, and that will facilitate many of those fields to be automatically populated, with the user then finishing off some of the other assumptions which do not necessarily relate to MYOB information or accounting information, such as number of forecast years and decisions on dividends and things like that, or debt repayments going forward. And in doing so, therefore, the whole financial module within Planium Pro can be utilized and produced a lot quicker. So this integration serves the part of the financial model within Planium Pro, which requires some initial and opening positions in terms of debt, equity, debtor days, creditor days, and so forth. In producing the business planning, one of the most important things are the accurate information and compatibility of the information, which is integrated with this type of integration. We have attempted to provide the user with that facility. Now, it's not a compulsory way of doing it. Users might still decide to manually input the required information, which again is not very demanding. There are only about 2 or 3 screens with these inputs, or decide to use the automatic input.
The MYOB Planium Pro module allows users to import financial opening position data using the MYOB set of APIs, specifically around the general ledger accounts. Let's start by importing from MYOB here. This immediately redirects the user You can see here that the user is presented with a choice of company file to use for the import. Now I'll select under Mifflin Paper Company. You can see here that the user has now been redirected back to Planium Pro, where their financial data has been imported as a best effort basis. You can see here that the General Ledger Account API is the primary API and only API we use apart from listing the company accounts available to the current user.
This brings us to the end of MYOB App Marketplace webinar with Planium Pro. We'd like to thank you for your time and attention today. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions.